sometimes it gets crazy, and understandably so. It's like someone told you that, I'm going to set a timer, and when it goes off, you're going to die. And you need to cut the red wire and the blue wire and the purple wire in the right order, or it's going to happen. So it's not something that I think that most of us are initially ready for when we become adults. I mean, if everyone's being honest, when you have kids, sometimes they hand them to you in the hospital, and you think, oh my gosh, I can't, this was a mistake. I can't do this. I'm not going to be a very good parent. But you get time to figure it out. You can have a bad day. You can do something one day and get in bed that night and think, it didn't work. I'll try something else tomorrow. But, nothing in your day-to-day life for most people ends with a seizure, and if you don't do it correctly. So it is really trial by fire.
You really don't have any, trial or error. You have
Yes.
to do it right.
There's absolutely no chance for you to get it wrong. And it's, I think perhaps for your own sanity, when you're diagnosed, the hospital is not very forthcoming with everything. I think if they told you everything you needed to know when you left, you would probably just overload right there. So they give you things again slowly as they see you're ready for them. That's at least how our endo does it. But I can tell you that when Arden had diabetes for maybe 6 months, I gave her insulin. She couldn't have been 2.5 years old maybe. I gave her insulin. I gave her too much. She had a seizure while she was asleep in her crib. The next thing I know, my wife and I are on the floor in the kitchen. My wife's got fast-acting glucose gel in her hand, and I'm fumbling with the glucagon shot. And both of us in that moment realized that neither of us knew how to use that glucagon needle, because even in the hospital, they were like, here, this is in case she has a seizure. Don't worry, you'll never need it. And there we were on the floor. And it felt like we needed it, and we didn't know what to do. The fast-acting glucose brought her out of it, thankfully, but that's the first time I knew that I didn't know what I was doing. For the first 6 months, I had pretty much talked myself into believing I had a good handle on it, but I didn't have any idea what was going on.
So list at least 2 or 3 best parenting skills that you need to nurture a diabetic child.
You've got to be able to stay calm. Really, and not just look calm, but actually be calm. I think that's the first thing. It really is. You have to find a way to be that person that you wanted to be when you thought of having children, because it really does call for it. And the calm you show gets relayed to your child, and I really think that your child will grow up and dealing with those situations the way you dealt with them. If you're running around like your hair is on fire, I think that's how they're going to be. And I think they've got a much better chance of having good outcomes every day if they keep their head about them. That would be the first thing for me. I think it's oversimplified to say, but patience is a big one. I think you have to, you just have to realize that you're not going to figure it out the first day. You might not figure it out the first year. And after you figure it out, you won't really have it figured out. Variables will change and things keep happening. And diabetes is like meeting somebody new every 3 hours. There's times things happen and you just sit back and go, in a million years, I wouldn't have thought that's what that blood glucose meter was going to say right now. I thought I had it figured out. So you stay patient and just realize that it's a process, not a race. You're never gonna win or lose the race. You're just gonna keep running it. So, and I think the third thing, I don't know if this is a parenting skill, but I think you have to respect your kids in a way that that maybe doesn't come naturally for people. Your child with diabetes it's not a little kid banging around the living room watching television and playing with dolls. It's a person living a real health ordeal every moment. And I wrote about this recently. I always hear people say, and I say it too, about how well Arden handles it. I just got done telling you about it. Arden handles things so well, and I'm so proud of her. And sometimes I wonder if that's not something that parents tell each other and tell themselves just so they don't end up screaming and crying into a pillow, because it's not something a child should have to do, obviously. I think you got to give them the real respect that they deserve for doing stuff like that every day.
Okay. So the other thing is, how do you tune yourself to understand her feelings? It's very hard. This is the hardest part of every parent.
Well, that's funny. She's a girl. I don't understand her at all. I don't understand my wife, and I've known her almost 20 years. My mother's 67 years old. I don't understand what she says. So it is difficult. I'll wake up Arden in the morning for school, and she just looks at me and she's like, "Good morning, Daddy. It's lunch today. Today for lunch we're gonna have this, and I have gym, so I'm gonna wear my sneakers." And she gets up and she goes to the bathroom and she comes back and gets dressed, and we go downstairs. And the next day I come in and I'm like, "Good morning, Arden." And she turns and she's like, "Leave me alone. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to school." And my son just gets up every day, puts on some clothes, he goes to school. He doesn't say 3 words. So I don't. How do I understand her? I don't know how you understand anyone, honestly. I have a hard enough time understanding myself sometimes. And I just look at her and I try to put myself in her shoes. And I try to imagine what it's got to be like in situations. Sometimes I look across the room at her and I see her looking for her PDM for her Omnipod when every other kid at the birthday party is just running in circles, or I go to pick her up at school and, she forgets something, and instead of just being able to say, "Oh, it's okay, we'll get it tomorrow," it's something that's going to keep her alive tonight, and we go back and get it. And she's a much more responsible person than I might have been the day before I had kids, and I was a lot older than she is. I have reached out to other people in the diabetes community online and asked them to explain to me what it's like to have diabetes, and I found that very helpful. But mostly I just like everything else, I just watch really closely and I do my best to interpret. But my wife says I misunderstand everything, so I'm probably not doing a really good job.
What are some of the things that you learn hard way as a diabetic parent?
Some things I learned the hard way?
Yeah.
All right, well, this is easy. This question I can answer with no problem. The hard way. Starting at the top, when you open up fast-acting glucose gel, there is a little safety tab on the top of it that you have to pull off or the gel will not come out. No matter how hard you squeeze the tube while your daughter is having a seizure, gel will not come out of the tube if you haven't pulled the safety tab off. So I learned that the hard way. But mainly, if I'm being serious, gosh, it's, the seizure, Arden's had 2. She's bringing me a drink here. Thank you. Can you say hi?
Hi, Arden. How are you?
He said, "How are you?" Good. Okay, I'll be done in a minute, guys. Thank you. I think being serious that I talk to a lot of diabetic kids' parents, and that really is one of the really unexpected things. I started my website to try to keep my family apprised of what it was like, and I was noticing a lot of disconnect between people in my life, didn't understand, and I was just trying to make it more available to them, the information. But I'm so far past that now, and I've met so many people and talked to so many people, and I'm always surprised at how many of them, I guess for wishful thinking, never really think about or talk about kids having seizures from having too much insulin or from getting too low. It hasn't happened to them. And they don't think about it, and I get that, I really do, because until it happened to us, I never thought of it. But Arden's a tiny girl, and she doesn't weigh very much, so a little bit of insulin moves her a lot more drastically than it may move an older child. But taking that seriously, what a low means, is definitely something I learned the hard way, and I definitely understand it now. I might be more vigilant than a lot of people who haven't seen it. There is a lot of truth to be told that sometimes you need to see something to really understand it. And that's, the rest of it is, don't assume your insurance company is going to do the right thing. That would be one. I learned that the hard way. That kind of stuff. I guess if I'm being honest and I got a little melodramatic, I learned it all the hard way, I guess. There's nothing really easy about it.
And you're very active in this diabetes advocacy. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's funny. You know, having a child diagnosed with a disease like diabetes, you almost go through the steps of grief. It's almost like someone dying and you coming to terms with it, because you know there's the shock in the beginning, and then there's the acceptance, and on and on and on. And there is this one part where you look up and you look at your child and they're sick and they're not getting better, and you think, well, I'm not a doctor, I can't fix this, and you kind of frantically look around for someone who you think can fix it, and you just throw your support behind them because there's nothing else for you to do. I'm not a doctor. I'm never going to cure diabetes. I'm never even going to make a lancet better or sharper or less painful. That's not what I'm going to accomplish in life. So when people reach out to me and ask if they can use a picture of Arden, or I've written something and they want to turn it into a mailer, I always do a little research and make sure I'm dealing with the right people, and then I always say yes. There's a diabetes institution in Canada that used something I wrote and made a mailer out of it. Used a photo of Arden, something I wrote, and they mailed it to about 45,000 people. And they did 2 mailings over 6 months, and they raised $175,000.
I did see that picture.
Yeah, it's the Alberta Diabetes Institute, and I was thrilled about that. Arden's picture was in banks all over Canada for a while. There's a rather large bank that was trying to get their employees to get more involved. So there's big posters of her all over the place and things like that. And she's, generally she's unaware that it's happening. But in my mind, I raised $175,000 for diabetes research. I break my butt for the JDRF here at home, and we've raised a lot of money, but not nearly that much. I think maybe $40,000, $50,000 for the JDRF since Arden was diagnosed, just through the walk. But I think the people donate in greater numbers because of the website, because they're able to really see what it's like, and it's not just me telling them it's bad or them feeling bad for me. They can actually look at their own pace and absorb it. It's been really helpful.
That's very good. Thank you so much, Scott, for being on the show and sharing your experiences and also your thoughts to the community. It means a lot to the diabetic community. And have a nice Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Scott. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.